All right, ladies and gentlemen, everybody's been focused around the world about March Madness and college basketball. WrestleMania is less than 2 weeks away. But here on Sportswire Radio, we have someone on here tonight that has been the talk of the professional wrestling world. Literally, after several weeks back, he had an attack that the lawman Kyle Kennedy had put a number on him, which we didn't know if he was going to come back out of it. And he was in a medical induced coma, and he was certainly the talk, and everybody had in his thoughts and prayers. And they were comparing him to DeMar Hamlin here on Sportswire Radio, plus much, much more. But look, he's with us here. His first words since that attack: he has been one of the premier referees around. Seen him in Nonstop Action Wrestling, Wrestling Appreciation Society. We're going to hear from him, plus much, much more. He needs no further introduction, but we're still going to give it to him anyway. So, wait for it. Further ado, here on the Sports Report, number one, Global Sports Show, referee for the Wrestling Appreciation Society and Nonstop Action Wrestling. That is Sammy Rose. Sammy, welcome and welcome back to the professional wrestling world. My friend, how are you?
Well, today I'm doing quite well. I've had a very interesting day, very exciting day, as I talked to you before we went on air. But generally, I've been better. I'm still recovering, still getting there. But as of today, as of right this second, right this minute, I'm doing pretty good. How are you doing, Tom?
I'm doing great. We'll see how my voice holds up here over the next hour, especially after with those pipes. But Sammy, I got a bunch of comments already. Obviously, this is one of those interviews that I've gotten a lot of messages about. This is one of the interviews that I think a lot of people on Sportswire Radio have been waiting for quite a while, especially over the past, I want to say 48 hours or so, maybe 72 hours once you got the cat out of the bag first. But I'm going to ask the first question, kind of the billion-pound question, as some would say in the UK would want to know. How are you feeling right now?
Well, as I said, I'm still not 1,000%. I'm still in recovery. I'm still getting there. There's an end goal to reach, and I'm not quite there yet. But I'm better than I was a week ago, and I'm better than I was a week before that. I'm working towards some things, and I can't let what's happened to me bring me down emotionally because, well, that's kind of my job as a ref. I can't hold grudges. I can't live in the past. I've got to keep going and keep moving forwards. And while physically still a bit sore, generally I'm feeling good. Yeah, I'm feeling good.
All right, I'm happy to hear that. You're certainly feeling good, and obviously a whole bunch of people here. I'm going to get to their comments in a second, but I mean, walk me through when you go into the hospital and then you're put in this coma by the doctors. I know undoubtedly we were speaking about it here on Sportswire. A lot of different locker rooms were speaking about it. I mean, I even had wrestlers comment, I think at the time it happened, and said, did I have sympathy for you? Did I have concern for you? And I said, of course, obviously we don't want anybody to be hurt to the way you were. But I mean, what was that process like going through the coma and recovering? I mean, walk me through what you remember about it.
So unfortunately, there's not too much of an answer to this question because the last month for me has been largely a blur. As has been well documented, I've been in a medically induced coma until quite recently to help with my recovery whilst things were going on to make sure that I was all right. So due to that and just the whole sort of stress of the situation, the entire last month has been a bit of a blur. The one thing I can say that I've gone out my way to pay attention to is what's been going on in what I consider my joint homes of the Wrestling Appreciation Society and Nonstop Action Wrestling.
All right. Well, you know what? I do have a ton of comments, so let me get to them here first before I ask you some questions because we have a lot of comments here. Donnie Franchise, certainly the franchise. Donnie obviously is somebody we've had on here on Sportswire quite a bit. Says, "Good evening. Good to see you back, Sammy." Matt Royale, who's going to certainly be a huge part of things coming up at WAS and also Nonstop Action Wrestling, says, "Good evening, guys. Excited to see Sammy finally get their chance to comment on everything that's been going on." Phantom Phoenix, who I think I'm going to have an announcement here in a little while for, says, "Good evening." Obviously, Phantom Phoenix, we're going to see in a huge title matchup coming up at Wrestling Appreciation Society. Skulls, who, by the way, is a soul hunter. He collects souls via the state of California and the EWF, says Skulls is here. Andrew Hanley, certainly Andrew, one of our favorites, says, "Good evening." Also, Phantom Phoenix says, "Glad to have you back with us." I give a thumbs up to that. Someone wants Skulls to come into the UK. So Wrestling Appreciation Society, Travis Cox, if you're out there in management, if you want a soul collector and a guy who hunts souls, Skulls is available. Also, the support for Sammy Rice has been massive, and we appreciate everyone reaching out to management regarding health and progress. All right, so let me ask you a question on that, because I had compared basically kind of the prayers for you as there was a player that played in the NFL, Damar Hamlin, horrible accident that had happened and for the Buffalo Bills. It was actually a game on Monday Night Football here in America against the Cincinnati Bengals. It had major ramifications. It was a national game covered on ESPN, which is kind of the conglomerate of sports channels here in America. And Damar Hamlin gets taken off the field. They don't even know if he's going to live. And this is a period for about 48 hours or so, and nobody knows, right? But eventually he comes through, and the prayers and the amount of support and love this guy received was just unheard of. The amount of money he received for his charity, stuff like that. And you were kind of compared to that. I mean, what did that mean to you in kind of just having that type of support and being compared to somebody on a national stage like a Damar Hamlin?
Well, even as someone who doesn't really follow that sport, that's a name that I was generally aware of as someone who pays attention to the Fightful Select reviews for the different wrestling shows in the week. That was something that was brought up there. So kind of that's something that reached outside of that sport. And I kind of feel that with me, this incident is something that reached outside our sort of sphere and kind of went out into the general wrestling world. And there was people who I'd never even really had the chance to interact with before who was saying well wishes, whether they be to you, to our management. It's been fantastic to see people from all walks of life come together around me. And I don't want to sound too up my own backside, but it's like, rather than it being about me, I'm just glad that people have found this thing that they can come together on. It sucks that it was something so horrific that brought people together, but it's really nice that I've been able to see sort of a positive come from this really, really horrible, traumatic experience.
Absolutely no question about it. And I do have a comment from somebody you might be familiar with that puts you in that coma. But I am going to hold off on that first because I do want to ask you in terms of the locker rooms, whether it was in WAS or NSAW, their support of you to kind of get better. What did it mean to you to have the support of those locker rooms?
So again, it was a wonderful thing to see people come around. You, if that happened, it was wonderful to see such fantastic talent, such amazing people come together and all just show their love for something. And again, the fact that it happened to be me, I can put that to one side. I see the greater picture and see these group of people who all have a common interest, a common goal, and they all manage to get together and do something together. And I think that's kind of wonderful.
Absolutely no question about that. And I want everybody to follow the Wrestling Appreciation Society on Facebook. You can do that at Wrestling Appreciation Society. Also, Instagram, WrestleSociety.hud. I also want Nonstop Action Wrestling to be followed because they have a huge show coming up on April the 1st. It'll be called Zenith, and you can follow them at Ensaw Wrestling UK, Ensaw Rest _ UK on Instagram, Nonstop Action Wrestling on Facebook, YouTube, plus much, much more. But I do have a comment here from a man that I'm sure you might be familiar with, and his name is the Lawman Kyle Kennedy. He is 1/4 of the Nonstop Action Wrestling first ever tag team champions from the society, and he would like to say, "How you feeling?"
A lot better now, thank you, Kyle. How are you feeling today?
Now you got to turn your volume off there. There you go. Now you did say that you have to try to be impartial as a referee, and we did see the back and forth between you and the lawman. Now let me ask you this question: hypothetically speaking, should you return to the ring? I'm sure maybe we'll hear about that later on in the show. But I mean, will you be able to be impartial when it comes to the lawman Kyle Kennedy? Let's say in Nonstop Action Wrestling or the Wrestling Appreciation Society, should you return to the ring to referee?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, that's what I'm hired for. I'm hired to be able to continue moving forward. I'm seeing tonight as my one opportunity to get all my grievances out. And maybe if Kyle wants to drop me a message and we can talk things through after the fact, great, and we can settle our differences. But as far as I'm concerned, I'm sorting things tonight. I'm saying my piece tonight. And if people are going to continue this drama going forward, well, that's on them.
Let me ask you a follow-up question on this, because obviously we saw the back and forth between the two of yous, and obviously there was some stuff going on because you'd said a few things about the lawman needing help from his brethren in the society. But I mean, when it came to that, I mean, walk me through that moment. You and him are alone there in the back at Nonstop Action Wrestling. I mean, what's going on through your mind?
So I got what I asked for. I am a referee, and some would say I should know my place. And I'm not going to be the first person to say it. I'm not going to be the last person to say it. I'm quite a gobby referee. If I've got an opinion, I will make it known. And I've not been ashamed to do that when it comes to Kyle Kennedy. I've made my thoughts known. I think he's a man who hides behind his words. And, well, when confronted face to face, I wasn't about to back down. He's a man who hides behind his words. I doubled down on my own opinion. I said it to him, and what did he do? Well, he attacked me with a chair, which, as far as I'm concerned, just proves my point.
Okay, certainly. I'll certainly keep that in mind. I do have some comments here, and I get people direct message me on Facebook. I appreciate that, but I am live right now, so you're going to have to hold off on that. Phantom Phoenix certainly has made his comments heard loud and clear. Who let this idiot join? Matt Royale says, as someone who's had a close friendship with MX Rice, it's nice to have them back on their feet, and it's amazing to see that they have come back with the attitude that they have not one of anger and vengeful, but one of respect and still being able to keep an impartial mindset. Pride also goes on and says, it is glad to see that you have survived and prospered for administration and a referee. You have proven yourself a warrior. Donnie Franchise seems to say, seem a bit outnumbered in this stream, the lawman. Not used to doing stuff on your own through, though, are you? Don't shake too fast in your boots. Also, see here, I have another comment here. I'm sorry, I'm getting like a ton of direct messages right now. So if you're John Gonzalez of the Sports Authorities Group, John Jackson of the RWA, you got to let me read these comments. Will this violent outburst be thrown against your ability to call the matches fairly in Zenith and Deadline? Well, you might want to stay tuned for an announcement possibly about that. But let me come back to the lawman, Kyle Kennedy here. Shaking in my boots, you're kidding. Yeah, I'm worried about a group of university students. Wrestle, humble yourself now, Don, or better yet, I can do that on the 29th. Would you like to respond in your capacity toward that?
So, I think both of these men have something going for them going into this match. And well, I'll talk about Kyle Kennedy's dismissal of our general group in a second. But going into the match on April the 29th, Donnie and Kyle, they're both bringing something different to the table. Kyle, whether you like his methods, whether you like the society's methods, they get results. They get results. He is 1/4 of the inaugural NSAW Tag Team Champions. that's something that can't be overstated. To not only be a champion, but to be a first champion, that's an incredibly impressive thing. But Donnie's bringing heart. Donnie's bringing soul. Donnie's got something in here that Kyle Kennedy only wishes he could have. And that's something you can't teach.
Okay, all right. Well, I've got a bunch of comments here, so let me read them off. I'm not even going to ask you a question. I'm going to go right to them. Owen Carter, who was with us not too long ago, says, glad to see back up and about. Obviously, Owen Carter, one of our favorites here on Sportswire, and we're going to be speaking about him undoubtedly here in a little while for sure. Skull says, you got to be an Earl Hebner. Take no crap from nobody. Yeah, I'm kind of picturing those kind of days back in the Attitude Era where Earl Hebner and Triple H would kind of get in the faces of one another. I'm not saying you and the Lawman should do that, but hey, who knows? Donnie Franchise says, if you were clever enough to get into a university, you'd know pissant isn't a real word. I want to give a shout out to John Jackson because John Jackson, obviously, here in America, has a company called the RWA, and they're about 5 or so weeks away from their first ever live show. And John has been on with us. He's kind of like the Rock of upstate professional wrestling. He's done some movies, he's done some directing. So I want to give a big shout out to John Jackson. John is a big fan of ours here on Sportswire, and we will have coverage of the RWA coming up in the next couple of weeks. We get closer to their date. Also, C2K, who's been on with us, Courage to Kill. We will bring him back. Unfortunately, had some scheduling conflicts more on my end, but we'll definitely bring them back and support those guys over at the RWA. But let me come back to Joshua Snow, the chairman of Nonstop Action Wrestling. Obviously, before your attack that Mr. Kennedy had done to you, you and Mr. Snow had a good conversation. It seemed like Mr. Snow was very happy with you, and Mr. Snow gives his first words since you've recovered. He says, this hurts most as I was there in the same building and didn't notice the attack until after the fact. I'm glad you are well, Sammy, but this is another black mark on wrestling. Let me ask you a question, and I know you have to be objective here. I know that you certainly have to try to walk this line. I get all that. But do you hold any blame, any, let's say, bitterness toward Joshua Snow or Nonstop Action Wrestling, how that was handled, and letting you and Kyle Kennedy have face-to-face alone, where the bigger man, the lawman, Kyle Kennedy, was able to put you in a coma? Do you have any ill will or hard feelings toward anybody in Nonstop Action Wrestling or the chairman, Joshua Snow?
I couldn't possibly. Nonstop Action Wrestling are the company that have given me my first ever experience as a ref. My first 2 shows, and right now the only 2 shows I've ever refed, have been under NSAW, have been under the hire of Joshua Snow. Joshua Snow was the first person to respond to that incident. He came and checked on me as soon as he realised what had happened. Kyle Kennedy chose to confront me in a small room away from public eye in a sneaky, backhanded way. That isn't the fault of Joshua Snow. That's the fault of Kyle Kennedy for not being man enough to confront me in a public forum.
Okay, that's fair. I will certainly have to see here. And John, by the way, big shout again to John. John actually says he respects you, obviously, as a gladiator for coming out there. And John has always got his eye. Listen, John directs movies. He does some acting. So you never know, Sammy. Maybe you could be out there in movies if refereeing doesn't work out necessarily. Well, you put the mic down there. Okay, there you go. Okay. You got to take me off speaker there. All right, so let's move on. Remus Kane, though, you did address the society there. Technically, he has tuned in here, and he says he's got a lot to say here. Heart means nothing in the ring. You've recovered well, Mr. Rice. Good. You can see the society dismantle your little gathering of want-to-be wrestlers. Would you like to say something toward Remus Kane, who, by the way, has made a huge name for himself in places like CCW, GT Ministries of late, UKW. We've seen him in the past. He's back over there. And Remus Kane, by the way, has been one of the more impressive wrestlers this year, so I want to make sure I give him that. But what do you say toward that comment?
Well, Remus, again, like I said about Kyle, I'll say the same for you. You are 1/4, arguably 1/5, including Richard Knights, who tends to work more behind the scenes than in ring. But let's not forget that is an important part of the society's deal, that they've got people everywhere. So let's not forget that you are 1/4, if not 1/5, of the inaugural NSAW Tag Team Champions. That is an incredibly impressive feat. However, To say that heart doesn't carry anything in the wrestling business is completely untrue, because heart is what has got me to recover in a miracle time. Without heart, without soul, without passion, I'd still be lying around moping, and it would probably take us double the length to recover than it has. And I want to completely dismiss this narrative of WAS being wannabe wrestlers. Every wrestler starts somewhere. Lest we not forget, Tom, that a couple of years ago there was this pipe dream by a bunch of indie wrestlers called All In. That was a complete pipe dream where a famous reporter basically effectively put a bet on Twitter that was like, you can't do this goal, and one Cody Rhodes went, bet. And then they achieved that goal, and not only achieved that goal, they launched the first ever legitimate competition to WWE since TNA back in the 2000s.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's certainly fair. Those points are certainly very, very valid and well taken, and that has led Cody Rhodes to the stage of where he is, where he's in the main event against Roman Reigns there for those titles, and I would certainly give you some fair, valid points here. But the lawman Kyle Kennedy does also say, if you were good enough to be a wrestler, you would know how to run the ropes.
If he's referring to me, well, I'm a referee, so I do come into training whenever I can. So it's a skill I'm learning. It's a skill I'm acclimatizing to. So maybe one day I'll hold you to that. And if you're talking about Donnie, well, everyone makes mistakes once or twice. You know you have, Kennedy. You attacked me, and you're going to answer for it.
All right, we'll have to see there. I've got tons of comments here, so let me try to work everybody in here. There's always one word that comes after first in this business, and that is next. Kyle, you and the rest of the team Goth may be the first tag team champions, but the Phantom and the Outlaw will be the next NSAW tag team champions. How's that for humbling? I mean, some people say that could Phantom Phoenix and Owen Carter be the ones to end the reign of the Society as tag team champions. I know, Sammy, you're going to have to be impartial down the line on that, but there are people, and there might be an announcement in a little while toward a guest upcoming on Sportswire Radio who might have something to say about that here. Also, Donnie Franchise says, touche, my old friend. However, you really need to work on some decent comebacks because that one's getting old. I thought you was a top promo guy in NSAW. Star Wars would have got boring if it was the same lines over and over and over. Also, we have here more from Matt Royale. Every member of the WAS roster has given their all in order to get there. Where they are, if we didn't have people like that, we wouldn't have an industry. Remus Kane says, well, someone who recognizes Richard for what they are. The amount of people to come to me with so cold heart and I have beaten down, prove that you are more than wants to be. We will see you soon. But let me get to Nonstop Action Wrestling because management has tuned in. They want to say something to you, Sammy. We do thank you for holding no ill will towards the company. Just know that we've upped security not only for Zenith, but at the asylum to make sure nothing like this happens again. Very happy you've had a speedy recovery. We can't wait for you to get back out to be in the ring and reffing at Zenith and onwards. I mean, are you going to be at Zenith? Are you going to be refereeing coming up on April the 1st, 13 days from today, Sammy Rice?
So, unless anybody decides to do any more unprompted toward attacks on my person, yes, Zenith, April the 1st at the Swaith Working Men's Club will be my grand return.
So you might want to repeat that again because we lost you. It seems like you're going to make your return to refereeing April the 1st at the biggest show in Nonstop Action Wrestling history, Zenith?
Yes, that's right. I'll be at Zenith. I'll be in the ring throughout the entire show. I'll be reffing as many matches as is thrown my way. I'll be remaining as impartial in every one of them as I possibly can be, as is humanly possible, because at the end of the day, we are all humans with feelings. And I'll be there. I'll be doing my job, and I will hope to do the best job I can possibly do.
Well, certainly the Queensryche song, which is a famous band back in the mostly in the 80s and 90s, had a song called "The Best I Can," and certainly we'll see if Sammy Rice can be the best he can when it comes to making his in-ring return as a referee at Nonstop Action Wrestling's Zenith here coming up. You can follow Sammy on Instagram at the ref_Sammy Rice. So we will have to see, but okay, I think you answered that. So let's go to Remus Kane. We've already done that. We've also got here this individual who I think we also know from Nonstop Action Wrestling says Evening Tom. I kind of have an idea who this might be, but I'll plead the fifth on who his identity is. You still owe me a one-on-one match, Remus. We've not come to blows yet, but I'd happily show you what Hart can do. Owen Carter says Remus wants to call us wannabe wrestlers, but after deadline, you'll be calling myself Phoenix and KP champions. Let me ask you this question, Sammy, and I want to ask this to you in a general way because one of the things that I've had other wrestlers tell me on Sportswire Radio over the past several months is that these new kids on the block want to usurp, they want to come in, they want to say this, they want to say that, and everybody acts like that they're a professional wrestler now because they've come on Sportswire Radio, they've had an interview, they've wrestled 2 matches, they've got 2 shirts, fill in the blanks, yada, yada, yada. Do you feel that there is an unnecessary attack on, let's say, whether it's yourself training to be a referee or many of the young up-and-coming wrestlers, maybe by those who might be threatened by what you guys seem poised to do in the wrestling business?
Well, if people can tear down and push away competition with just their words, well, they've got less to fight for. These people want places given to them. These people who will put us down want to keep a distance between them and us. But whether they like it or not, the new crop of wrestlers that I'm seeing around me are some of the most amazing talent I've ever seen in my entire life. And I've not been following wrestling particularly long, but I know as someone who's a big rock and metal fan, I know that if you just worship the old guard, the new guard then doesn't continue business as it was. Like you can look even just 10 years ago, think of how many songs with guitars were on the radio then compared to now. If we just continue to worship wrestlers that have been in this business for ages, and I don't want to sit here and sound ungrateful. We owe these people their dues. Without them, we wouldn't be here training to do the things we love. These are people that have inspired us. These are people that have laid the groundwork for what we're doing now. And we can't be more thankful for that. However, it's time to accept that wrestling's changing. Wrestling's evolving. There is an entirely new sphere of talent out there, and they are coming, and you cannot stop it.
Certainly, and I could see, by the way, your rock and metal taste because you have a Blondie shirt on, Debbie Harry. I mean, by the way, Debbie Harry famously cut her teeth here in New York at a place called CBGB. So I actually kind of saw the Blondie reference there. And listen, I'm old enough to remember when nu metal was kind of the thing in the world of rock and metal. Everybody was like, where's the guitar solo? Putting rap in, they're putting turntable mixes in, they're kind of doing these different sounds and noises. And now everything comes around here. But we do have some more comments. I want to get to a guest that I'm supposed to have on next Sunday in your chair, James Marshall, the former Wrestling Championship Entertainment Interstate Openweight Champion, who, by the way, is probably on daddy duties right now because he's got his little baby there right with him in the background. So hope that Mr. Marshall is doing well. Want to give some shout outs to a few people tuned in. Carol Russo, by the way, lives down the block from me. She told me that her nephew is a huge wrestling fan, sometimes tunes into our streams. Want to make sure we give her a big shout out. Also want to give a big shout out to Anastasia Riznia, all the way up early in the state of California. Big wrestling fan. Really looking forward to you coming on the air, Sammy. So want to give her a huge shout out. Also want to give a huge shout out to everybody else here that's tuned in. If you like what you hear from us on Sportswire Radio, continue to give us a like and follow on Facebook at Sportswire Radio, YouTube at Sportswire Radio, and 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. You can listen to all of our great content on sportnarium.com/player. And I'm going to let the cat out of the bag here for the first of 2 announcements related to Nonstop Action Wrestling and Wrestling Appreciation Society coming up Friday night. I am actually going to have on in his debut to Sportswire Radio the Phantom Phoenix. And the Phantom Phoenix is going to be in the ring here coming up against the Society for those tag team championships from Nonstop Action Wrestling. We are going to see Callum Jakester and Remus Kane, who knows who else, against the Phantom Phoenix and the Outlaw Owen Carter. The Phantom of the Outlaw versus the Society coming up here at the University of Huddersfield on April the 29th. So we'll get the Phantom Phoenix's first thoughts on that, plus much, much more Friday night. Figure, I guess, maybe between 6 and 7 o'clock. I'd say closer to 6:30, 7 o'clock, somewhere around that time range. Maybe 7 if the Phantom of the Outlaw is okay with that. So we'll do 7 o'clock with the Phantom of the Outlaws. The Phantom Phoenix, his debut to Sportswire Radio, and I want everybody to follow Nonstop Action Wrestling, NSOR Wrestling UK, NSOR_Rest_UK, Nonstop Action Wrestling on YouTube, Facebook, also WrestleSociety.HUD on Instagram and Wrestling Appreciation Society. And we are here with Sammy Rice. In Sammy's first words, since Sammy has come out of his medically induced coma that Sammy was put in by the lawman, Kyle Kennedy. And the lawman, Kyle Kennedy, by the way, we're going to have an announcement toward the end of the show about the lawman, Kyle Kennedy. But, Sammy, I have to ask you this last question away. Kind of summarizes where we are with your return upcoming to the ring. But I have to ask this because I have to be objective and do my due diligence here on Sportswire Radio. But are you concerned, even though that Nonstop Action Wrestling is saying that they're going to ensure your safety and well-being along with the other referees? Are you concerned the moment you return on April the 1st for your safety and well-being?
Slightly, because as we've seen through Kyle's chatter, there's one thing that he likes to do, and it's rehash points. So if he wants to rehash attacking me, that's something that he can do. So in a way, yes, I am scared because the Society is strong. They're dominant. They've got the numbers game. But I'm starting to amass my own group of people between Matt Royale, Owen Carter, Donny Franchise, anybody who's come through the WAS doors. These are people who are, I'd like to at least think, are in support of me. And so if Kyle was to try and do something again, or if any of the rest of the Society was to try and get involved, I'd hope that I'd at least have backup this time. But yes, I am a little bit nervous. It's going to be touch and go, my first time back there. But as I've said, it's my job as a referee to quote a very famous film, just keep swimming. I've just got to look forward. I've just got to keep going. I've got to what's happened, and let's what's going to happen. Just let things be as they are and just judge matches down the middle as impartially as possible.
All right, we'll see if you're able to do that. And I have to ask also a slight follow-up question. How does your family feel about you returning to the ring now that it's been announced by you that you're coming back April the 1st? I mean, talk about your family and what do they think here about this?
So, me and my family don't really discuss wrestling.
Okay.
It's partly because it's not really a sphere they're involved in. I think it's partly because the phrase, out of sight, out of mind. What my mum doesn't really know can't hurt her. If we're frequently discussing me, getting attacked by Disciple, both shows I've worked with him, getting attacked at the hands of a chair by Kyle Kennedy. If these were conversations I was having with my mum, I'm sure she'd be more concerned. But as I said, out of sight, out of mind. I don't talk about really it with her. She doesn't have to think about it. It means she doesn't have to properly sort of, she worries for me, but she doesn't have to sit up every night worrying, what's going to happen next.
Okay, fair enough there. Certainly, you did mention Disciple, and I have to mention somebody that certainly knows a thing or two about being put on the sidelines by Disciple, who, by the way, wrestled in the main event at GT Ministries' last show, Consequences, and we saw quite a bit between Disciple and Bentley back and forth afterwards. They needed literally the entire locker room after Jack Johnson had pulled a mild upset on the champion, the reigning defending GT Ministries and Nonstop Action Wrestling World Champion. And also we saw Bentley and Disciple kind of go back and forth there a little bit when it came to Alex Boylan, the Metal God, beating Bentley there. But we'll certainly see how that all plays out on May the 20th, coming up in Team Bentley versus Team Disciple. So, speaking of Disciple, Gareth Angel, you might have heard of him, who, by the way, announced live for us on Sportswire Radio's social media pages, Facebook at Tom Bryce at Sportswire Radio, Instagram at the Sports Report 2021, that Gareth Angel is going to be at Deadline. And he also says, Mr. Angel, great to see you in good health, and I look forward to meeting you at Deadline. You seem like a lovely guy. So there you have it, the legendary Gareth Angel. Guy has been on BBC, movie star, actor. Everybody knows, everybody loves Gareth Angel. Well, except for Disciple. But you're going to be meeting him coming up on April the 29th at the University of Huddersfield. I want to give a mention to young Horace, because young Horace says, I hope you saw what happened to the last referee who crossed me, Sammy. I'm sure you'll be better at staying in line, my boy. Now, I asked the question, to be fair, about your safety and overall well-being, and you saw what young Horace did. I am sure you did. A fatal attraction to Dan Robertson, the Colt of Killjoy. I mean, what young Horace did to him, that could have been anybody else. I mean, so you concerned about this comment from young Horace?
I'm not personally concerned because I've not got any sort of personal ill feelings towards young Horace. I'd hope that he's not got any towards me directly. We've not really interacted too much, so I can kind of keep in my world, he can keep in his, and we can just be ships in the night. But I did see what happened to the last people that he considers crossed him. I was literally stood at the side of the ring. I had to stand there, and just due to the nature of it, I couldn't really get involved because, well, as much as I'm a referee, you do have to pick and choose your battles, and I wasn't about to sort of. I had to think. I had the rest of a card to ref. I couldn't risk getting injured there, but I did see what young Horace is capable of, and it did worry me slightly. I hope that him and Dan, him and Josh Snow can all work through whatever's on them.
Oh, I don't think they're working. Listen, I do not think that Dan Robertson and young Horace are going to be working out any problems anytime soon. No, I don't think that that's going to happen. So when it comes to Joshua Snow and young Horace, who knows? Stay tuned. But certainly, young Horace certainly right now is in a foul mood, and I would not want to cross paths with him, because certainly right now, the mood that he is in after Dan Robertson found a way to beat him after the beating that young Horace gave. I would say that young Horace probably gave the biggest beating he gave to any wrestler in the ring. And he certainly is going to be somebody to keep an eye on coming up here, not only in Nonstop Action Wrestling Zen show, but in Firestar Pro Wrestling. We're going to see him, I have no doubt, in UKW as always, and many other places. And we'll definitely have him back on Sportswire Radio very, very soon. And he also says, you do sound like a smart lad. But Donnie Franchise says, Donnie ain't even stepped in the ring for a match yet, and Title has recognized my ability to hang. I've shared the same locker room of WWE UK stars such as Amir Jordan and Rampage Brown. April 1st, I'll be back there with the legendary Martin Kirby. The WAS doubters are clearly the ones that will be unable to pull their finger out and get noticed sooner rather than later. Fact of life, hashtag. I want to ask you about that because it was well known and documented that a bunch of you guys and gals and everybody else were able to be at the Title show that happened earlier today. And for those that are listening and watching, spoke about that experience and what did it mean to you and everybody else from the Wrestling Appreciation Society.
So Tidal is a company we've had our eyes on for a while because, to our knowledge, they're one of, if not the only other wrestling company who works locally to us in Huddersfield. So we wanted to sort of venture that gap and get to know them a bit more. But today, actually getting to go there and be sort of in the middle of things, getting to go backstage and getting to see sort of more inner workings of more different shows, because I know the backstage and I know the locker room atmosphere at NSAW shows, but that's one backstage, that's one locker room. Locker rooms up and down the country are going to have different atmospheres, and the atmosphere at Tidal today was electric. Getting to be in the room with people like, as Donnie says, Amir Jordan and Rampage Brown, getting to see someone like Simon Miller, who is such a big figure in the UK wrestling scene. There was such fantastic. Shug D was he put on a match today that was one of my favorite matches I've seen all year. The title show today was absolutely incredible, and I cannot thank them enough for the opportunities they've given us today and ones they may give us in the future.
What do you take away from that experience for your own career?
As you can well imagine, when I watch matches, I don't just watch the wrestlers, I watch the referees. And the referees today were on absolutely top form. There was things I noticed the referees seeing, little things people do that I'm probably going to now incorporate into my arsenal, and little lessons that I've learned, that little things that I'd maybe not noticed to check that they did. And so it was a real learning experience, and getting to get advice from people, getting to make friends and contacts, getting to just see fantastic people at work at the absolute top form. It was just incredible back to front. It was such an amazing experience.
I have another good question for you, which I was going to ask, but obviously we have so many comments on Sportswire that I don't have to ask the question. I should probably just give up the mic and let the fans and everybody else ask you the questions. What made you want to become a referee and not a wrestler?
So originally it was more necessity than choice. We as a society, really the four of us on committee, decided that we liked the idea of doing a show, and I needed to become a ref to facilitate this show happening. It's not something I'd ever considered, and I kind of again just stepped into it, as I've only really been following wrestling properly just over a year. And at the time we decided to do the show, I'd only been following it for sort of 6 months or so. So I took a step back and went, other people can have their opportunity. I'll do my job and just do whatever needs to. But throwing myself into the referee thing and doing it more, the more and more I've realized that it's something I really do enjoy. And it's just such a fun thing to do. And it's a way that I can be involved in the wrestling sphere, involved directly in wrestling matches, but without getting as hurt as the wrestlers do, because these people put their bodies on the line and I don't go out my way to. I just happen to end up attacked by a lot of the wrestlers who maybe have bad ways about them. But yeah, so it started off as a necessity, but it's ended in me finding a new passion that I really, really enjoy.
All right, fair enough there. And I do have to bring back the lawman, Kyle Kennedy, who I'm going to have an announcement for in a few minutes. Title recognized my ability to hang. Kid, there's a difference between stepping in the ring and then being a good hand at holding a camera. Imagine trying to brag you were in the presence of actual talent and all you did was film them. So certainly that's what some might say to counter what you guys actually did at the most recent title show, which happened today. But I do have another comment, which is an interesting one. What are your aspects in the business? Do you hope to one day wrestle, or are you content being a referee? You were a great referee, by the way. So this individual certainly says that you're a great referee and doing a great job. So talk about this.
Becoming and kind of transitioning into a wrestler is definitely something I considered. I'd maybe thought about doing it as soon as next year in potential future deadline shows that may happen, whatever shows end up looking like for the Wrestling Appreciation Society going forward. But the more I've discovered the ref thing, the more I've realized that my set of skills really work for that. And it's something that I've got my foot in the door with a bit. I train in wrestling when I can, because I think that it's a good way to learn about wrestling and about reffing, is understanding wrestling and understanding the sort of technique of it and understanding what you're looking out for. So things like that, it's good to train with the wrestlers. Also helps build morale. Also helps you realize what wrestlers are friendly and which ones aren't. So as of right now, there aren't any direct plans for me to become a wrestler, but you never know what the future holds, eh, Tom?
Hey, listen, as Blondie famously sang, call me, listen, when you have an opportunity for me to maybe think about different things to do in the business, but we'll have to find out. Matt Royale certainly takes the offensive here. Bradley, why do you hail the lawman so much? He is a disgusting human being. Having him as your profile only endorses what he's done, but I don't think this individual, though, is endorsing the lawman. Anybody can have a photo of somebody. I would also point out that this individual, maybe he's being impersonated by the lawman, Kyle Kennedy. Maybe he just has a photo there. We don't know that definitively. That's an unfair take to some say. And you know what? Some would also say on Sportswire Radio, they call him Mr. Sportswire, the lawman, Kyle Kennedy. And I'm going to go even further that we're getting the lawman, Kyle Kennedy, back on Sportswire Radio. He is coming back next week because he's going to have a few different things to say, not only about you. He's also going to have quite a bit also to say about the Wrestling Appreciation Society. He's also going to be saying a lot about anything on his mind that comes up tonight. That is going to be March the 29th. We're going to have him on around 7:15 p.m. British Standard Time, so you are definitely going to want to hear what the lawman has to say. Follow him on Instagram, Mr. Justice Kyle Kennedy. He is still 1/4 of the non-stop action wrestling tag team champions from the society. So I know Sammy will be tuned in and that much more. Well, so there you have it there. Lawman back on Sportswire. And by the way, stay tuned for some Lawman merchandise you might see rocked soon by yours truly. Sammy has generally become one of my closest friends here in Huddersfield. I am so happy to see them happy and healthy. Can't wait for Deadline. Let me ask you a question, and I want to ask a general question with this. And I don't want to take you time forever because I know you have the injury still, mental cognition, voice recognition, all that stuff goes on from an attack like this. So I appreciate the time that you've given us here. But what does it mean to you to be a part of an event on April the 29th that the Wrestling Appreciation Society is doing for charity? It's doing, obviously, a benefit for cancer. Almost everybody's impacted by this horrific disease that has taken far too many people away from this earth. And talk to me about what it's going to mean to you to be a part of Deadline April the 29th and the cause that the Wrestling Appreciation Society is helping out with.
So it's in fact a very personal cause to me because during the COVID-19 pandemic, when we were all locked down, which is potentially one of the worst times you could have got this news, my mum unfortunately was diagnosed with cancer. I had to go through treatment as that pandemic was going on, which meant not only did she have to go into treatment, it meant that because of isolation rules, the most I could see her was out of a back window in the hospital. I could talk to her over the phone, but I didn't get to be there to support her physically whilst it was going on. So it's affected me. It's affected people close to me. It's a very pertinent issue to me. So to be able to raise money for such an important cause that everybody should care about, to me, it's the absolute least I can do to give back to the fantastic people like my mum who has put up a greater fight outside of the ring than a lot of wrestlers I've seen put inside the ring. And that's not to bury people. That's not to dismiss the work that people do inside this ring. But fighting with an opponent and fighting a horrible disease like cancer are two things that, in my opinion, aren't comparable. So, as I say, as I feel, it's the absolute least I can do to give back.
Fair enough. Certainly, we all can respect that, and obviously want everybody to support the Wrestling Appreciation Society in this wonderful cause. You can do that by going to WrestleSociety.hud for more information. Just click on the link that you'll see in their description for it comes to tickets for Deadline, also helping out this wonderful, wonderful cause to help so many people. Obviously, again, cancer has just taken away far too many people on this earth. We all have a loved one that unfortunately has been taken from cancer, and Skulls also wants to follow up and says, Skulls knows what you're going through. Unfortunately, Skulls has had to deal with that. He says his mom has battled cancer 3 different times, and we certainly want to give Skulls our thoughts and prayers. Pro wrestling star from the EWF and Wrestling Championship Entertainment. He also says, what law degree does the lawman Kennedy have? You know, I have to say, on a funny point here, in about a year, we've been covering the lawman and everybody else in nonstop action wrestling. I don't think anybody's asked that question. I guess I should have asked that at some point, but maybe I'll ask that next week. But hey, who am I to argue with somebody that's got a tag team title and is a lawman? So, I mean, he's got something right. And to be fair, I have to take the stand of Bradley Hiley, because is a man not allowed to have a personal favorite wrestler? No. And he says, I respect his in-ring abilities. Correct, he has done heinous things. But again, his graft and talent is bar none. And I fully agree with Bradley Hiley on this one, by the way. Speak the truth, my friend. The lawman Kyle Kennedy has got phenomenal talent. We actually like him on Sportswire Radio. Maybe not agree so much with the attack on Sammy to put him in a coma, but I like what the lawman does in the ring, and I want to see the lawman Kyle Kennedy in action, not only for Nonstop Action Wrestling, for Wrestling Appreciation Society, and countless other companies, and that's why he's one of our favorites. Now, I don't know if I endorse this comment, by the way, but Callum Jakester, of course, the upgrade says, oh, damn, he's back from the coma. Shame. Now, I cannot endorse that comment on Sportswire Radio. We're certainly not going to endorse that one because we really don't want to be saying, hey, we want people in comas to stay in comas, because I'll probably get yanked off the air for that. But Callum Jakester can certainly say that because he's a wrestler and he's entitled to that. Donnie says, yawn. Another one I'll have to miss, Tom. I respect you, but the boy man, again, I see through the comments, it's just going to be the same old. If you like watching paint dry or watching the washing machine spin around, tune into Kyle next week. What's that song they used to play? I don't play video games, but I remember, was it Grand Theft Auto? Was it You Spin Me Around, Go Round and Round? Remember that song? That was the one. Yeah, that was the one from Grand Theft Auto. That reminds me of that. I'm trying to forget what I don't know if it was New Wave, but it was one of those 80s bands that did that song. Somebody can, I'm sure, quote me on that, or maybe tell me who the band was. But that just reminds me of a Grand Theft Auto reference. Somebody definitely played Grand Theft Auto Donnie franchise. That's the case. But I want to ask you this question before I move on to closing thoughts here. Walk me through April the 1st. Let's say you get to that building there. What emotions are you going to have? Are you going to be nervous? Are you going to have butterflies, stomach knots? Walk me through the day. You're going to return to the ring April the 1st, and how are you going to feel?
So one thing I want to say quick before I get to that, Tom, is something I should have said earlier, is that talking about my mum, I don't want to give people mixed or false messages. My mum is still with us. She luckily has survived her fight with cancer. She's currently on her road to remission. I just thought it's worth mentioning because I want to be as direct as possible. I don't want to accidentally mislead people into thinking something that isn't true that then gets me backlash later down the line. So I thought, clear that now. But in terms of April 1st at Zenith, I'm excited to be back in the ring. I'm excited to be back around it. I'm excited to get to perform in a venue that I've never got to be around before. I'm excited to say hello to the people who have supported me through this, who've supported me through my first few shows, and who've been lovely and welcomed me into the NSAW family. I'm going to be avoiding people who I may have disagreements with, shall we say. I think it's just best that I'll keep to my corner of the room. They can keep to theirs, and we'll just get on with our day. But yeah, nerves will be there, as with all sports, as with all things when you're in front of an audience. Nerves there because you don't want to let people down. But I just hope that the crowd's going to be on my side. And as soon as that first bell rings, I'll be back in it and I'll be raring and ready to go.
Well, I'll tell you what, they always say that if you aren't nervous, you clearly are doing something wrong. So if you don't have any nerves, they say, in sports or anything else you do in life, you clearly have to get your head examined. So that's certainly a point that many people have made. Also, Pride says on here, while as Kyle Kennedy has in-ring talent, their talents belie their ability to be a human being worthy of any respect. There are other wrestlers with ability without heinous acts vilifying their name. Skulls wants to point out, tighten up your security, Nonstop Action Wrestling. He also says, he sends prayer, no soul taking. So he's sending prayer to your family and everybody else impacted by cancer. WrestleSociety.HUD for more information on that. Also, Donnie Franchise. Donnie Franchise is cracking me up in a way. Pride, a person with brain cells and a genuine heart. Thank God there's people out there who see sense. And by the way, Donnie Franchise and the Law Band might see each other on November the 1st, because we know Donnie Franchise is going to be in the house, and there's that Young Bloods Championship out there, and something tells me the Lawman and Donnie Franchise, it could be the beginning of the fisticuffs before the 29th of April. Stay tuned. Ensor Wrestling UK on Instagram, Ensor Wrest UK _ on Twitter, also YouTube and Facebook, Nonstop Action Wrestling. Follow. And also want to give a big shout out to the lovely Christine Furco, who's tuned in here, liked my post on Facebook. Christine always says she wants to come on Sportswire Radio, but I haven't had her on yet. But I want to give her a big shout out. Christine's a huge, huge wrestling fan here. But Matt Royale says, myself and Donnie Franchise will make sure there is no funny business with Kyle Kennedy. Sammy will be protected, if not by the security that Enzo are providing them, by the two of us that will keep Kyle as far away from that young blood title as possible. And we saw Matt Royale and Donnie Franchise kind of have a little bit of a mutual respect, but kind of a, I don't know if I'd say almost a little bit of a disagreement, but certainly some competition there for that championship. So stay tuned. April 1st coming up. YouTube, Instagram, and more on Nonstop Action Wrestling. And Phantom Phoenix says, I disagree. Might be comical watching him talk meaningless dribble for hours on end. Best of luck with that interview. Well, Phantom Phoenix, you're up first Friday night around 7 o'clock. So we're getting the Phantom Phoenix, 7 p.m. British Standard Time on Sportswire Radio. You're up first. We'll see how you do. And I have a feeling, Sammy Rice, that you are going to be on coming up with Zachary Zest, if I'm not mistaken, right? Zachary Zest, we're going to see you on, maybe?
Well, Zachary Zest does like to. He's asked Zachary Zest and people involved in his camp, shall we say, have their ways of convincing people to end up on his show, despite the fact that it's not the most popular talk segment, is it? There's other ones out there that are...
I wouldn't say it's necessarily to the popularity that we have on Sportswire, but they do call us the #1 global radio station, and we are the only place that covers professional wrestling around the world. So certainly not to toot my own horn, it's certainly not going to pale into comparison to being with yours truly.
Well, there is that, but any opportunity to talk is an opportunity to get myself out there and to, well, just have a fantastic time. That's what I'm here to do. It's why I'm in this business. It's something I love, and I'm going out to do it to just enjoy myself, really. So if Zachary wants to organise something where we can sit down and have a friendly chat, then I'd love to be on your show, Mr. Zest.
What did I learn in government class? I think it was in high school that President Franklin Delano Roosevelt used to have fireside chats. Well, I guess we'll have to see if Zachary Zest has a fireside chat with the likes of Sammy Rice. I guess stay tuned for that, and certainly we'll have to tune in, I'm sure, to see how that goes. But the lawman says, oh, little Maddie, sad that I have fans, and he don't cry. Cry more, kid. Tommy will humble you on April the 29th, and then you can spend another 3 years on the shelf. He's referring to the wild card Tommy Dillon, the former NSO world champ, because we're going to see quite a match between Matt Royale and certainly Tommy Dillon for sure. Also, we have here from Phantom Phoenix, looking forward to meeting you Friday night, Mr. Bryce. I have a lot on my mind. There's no better place here than to express those thoughts, and we're happy to have you, Phantom Phoenix. I'm looking forward to Friday night. I think that's kind of why we did Sunday with Sammy, because we wanted to free up next Friday with the Phantom Phoenix so we can give you the floor and get a little bit more ready for Deadline coming up on April the 29th. And Dante O'Cara says here, oh, look, it's Kyle's hit and run victim. So certainly Dante O'Cara, who, by the way, had his own big win at Fatal Attraction last month, arguably the biggest win of his career. And Dante O'Cara is on a big run here. So Dante O'Cara, certainly the Hellboy here is certainly the Hellhound has got a lot on his mind. And we'll have to see. Maybe sometime he comes on here. Donnie Franchise says, wait, Sammy's on Peel Back the Truth. I need to message Mr. Zest. I reckon he should add some glow to your show. Boy, stay tuned for all of that here. But before I get to closing thoughts here, Sammy Rice, I know you're a busy person. I know you've got a lot going on there. They obviously a lot on the agenda, health, recovery, family, thoughts, you name it. You've got a lot on your mind. So I want to give you this last thought here that I get a chance to ask you before formal closing thoughts. And what do you want to say to everybody that has supported you, whether it's through text messages, phone calls, emails, DMs, friends, wrestlers, families, supporters? What do you want to say now formally to anybody that has supported you to help you recover?
In short, it comes down to two words that people can't say enough to other people. Thank you. I'm incredibly grateful for the support I've been shown. When the attack happened, I thought that the only people that would really care were those in my close-knit circle. But as I said, this has gone so far beyond that. And whether I've spoken to you for years now, whether I've known you a short amount of time, whether we haven't really interacted at all, it really warms my heart to see, and yet warms my heart, continues to warm my heart to see the just vast, overwhelming, positive outcry of support that there was directed my way. It was just so incredible to see. Without that, I might have lost touch of what I consider to be one of my greatest assets, and it's, as I keep talking about, my heart, my spirit. Without the people there reminding me that they care about me, that me, little old me of all people, without people out there reminding me that this business does bring goods to people's lives, because, well, I went through a moment, it's like, well, is this something I want to continue to do? Do I want to put myself in danger? Do I want to possibly get attacked? But having seen the connections I've made through this business, I've got to keep going. People clearly want to see me in this ring, and they wanted to see me get better. And to not step back in this ring would be letting them down and ultimately letting myself down. And that is not on the cards. But what is on the cards is some fantastic refereeing coming from yours truly very shortly.
Well, we'll have to certainly see here. Coming up on April the 1st, Sammy Rice will undoubtedly be a huge part of things coming up at Nonstop Action Wrestling's Zenith. It'll be a great card, a great show. I'll be watching it live. Very, very excited. Forget about WrestleMania. Forget about NXT. Forget about Impact weekend coming up. It's all going to be about Nonstop Action Wrestling, a great month ahead of professional wrestling. Listen, some might say he's got the eye of the tiger. Some might say he's got a heart of a champion, but Sammy Rice is somebody that is going to be around for a very, very long time in the world of professional wrestling, and he's only just getting started. Dante O'Cara says just the beginning of the retribution of the Warhound, Tom. Yes, and I tell you what, I like the new photo. I certainly see we've had more success in the ring, and maybe Dante O'Cara is turning it around, and maybe he's somebody to be a force to be reckoned with that can come on Sportswire Radio. The Lawman Kyle Kennedy, I cannot wait for March 29th, 7:15 p.m. on Sportswire. Cannot wait for that one. Again, with the law degree. Well, how is Matt a royalist? How is Don the franchise? How is Owen Carter an outlaw king? That's a fair point. I mean, you can certainly make that case of a lot of people. What are they? I mean, I know I'm a reverend, but I actually have a certificate that says I'm a reverend. But there are people out there that, touche, it takes one to tango. How is it possible to be a Phantom Phoenix? Don't ask stupid questions, idiots. Well, idiots is the Chris Jericho reference, which I thought was a good one. Another great show tonight. Always great to see you've recovered, Sammy. See you with Zenith. We love Andrew. Andrew is always one of our favorites here on Sportswire. I love seeing Andrew on some of those streams. I've seen him at a lot of Nonstop Action Wrestling streams, and I look forward to watching Andrew yet again live in the audience on April the 1st. Sammy, I know you got a lot on your mind to go through in terms of just, health and recovery and spirit and goodwill. So I want to give you the floor now. I want to give you some closing thoughts. Anything else you want to plug, share, say? And I can't thank you enough for granting us this opportunity to be first here on Sportswire Radio to talk about your return and much, much more. So I turn it over to you, my friend. Anything else you want to plug, share, say? The floor is yours, and fire away.
So I'll briefly get the personal plug in there. I've recently started an Instagram account to cover my refereeing duties and to get people invest so they can see what I've done, see what I'm doing in the future. That account is, as one word, the ref _ and then another one word, Sammy Rice. If you'd like to give that a follow on Instagram, I'd be greatly appreciated. If you'd like to share it, I'd be even more appreciative. But yeah, the next month, April, it's a busy month for me. At the very start of that month, on April 1st, I'm going to be at NSAW Zenith show in the Swaith Working Men's Club. And as you said, Tom, forget Mania, forget Stand and Deliver. That is the show you want to see that weekend. I'm going to put my money on it. And then towards the back end of that month, you've got WIS's inaugural live show Deadline at the Huddersfield Sports Centre. Tickets are available, and I'm sure if I ask nicely now to the tech gods that someone on our end can put the link in the chat.
WrestleSociety.hud on Instagram. You can go, link is in the bio. Just click on the link. You'll see it right there. We did it for you, Sammy.
Yeah, thank you very much. And if you buy your tickets right now for the next 2 weeks / the next 50 tickets, whichever comes first, there's currently a flash sale. So those tickets are discounted to only £3.50 of your Great British Sterling, which is a fantastic price to see what I think is an incredibly stacked night of wrestling. There's lots of championships on the line. There's lots of your favorite local talent. It's not a show you'll want to miss. I cannot stress enough that Deadline is a show that cannot be missed by any wrestling fan. You should really set aside some time and come and support us. Same for Zenith at the start of the month. They're both going to be absolutely fantastic shows and ones I consider absolutely cannot miss.
Amen to all of that. And listen, last week I was out and spent about 50 pounds equivalent UK on a sirloin steak and French fries and a soda. So think about that. 350 pounds in terms of just going out to a ticket to a great wrestling show where you're going to see the likes of Gareth Angel and the Lawman, Kyle Kennedy, and Donnie Franchise, Tommy Dillon, Matt Royale, Remus Kane, Callum Jakester, Dan Robertson, Young Horace. The list goes on and on and on and on. That is a steal. That's almost practically free. So go out there, and if you're in the area, go buy a ticket. I'm telling you, it'll be worth it. Also, Lawman Kyle Kennedy also says here, one last thing before I leave. If I was such a heinous, horrible, villainous, fill in the blanks, why would I have donated my hard-earned money toward this event? Easy to answer. I'm not a bad guy. I'm just a truther. Well, I'll tell you what. You can make that case. It's certainly a fair and valid statement. Can the Lawman Kyle Kennedy be that bad of a guy? He did donate to a worthy cause, and he does have a heart. And I think here we'll have to find out, because I happen to like the Lawman Kyle Kennedy. Perhaps if you tune in on Friday night, you'll discover what makes the burning nightmare Phantom Phoenix who he is. I'll see you soon, sweet dreams. That almost reminds me, there was a commercial years ago as a kid. It was for Burger King in America. And they would used to have the flame grilled hamburger or the flame grilled Whopper. They would play this disco song, but fire was burning. It was going on. It was like some disco song. It was kind of reminding me of the Phantom Phoenix right there, kind of that burning fire, just whatever reason. But it was funny. Nobody probably got the joke in the UK, but hey, at least somebody might poke fun at me instead. Another enjoyable watch. Thanks, Reverend Sammy. Look forward to the next one. Absolutely, I'm looking forward to it. More wrestling coverage is ahead. Friday night with the Phantom Phoenix. I'll be covering college basketball here in America Monday and Tuesday, but Friday night, Phantom Phoenix, 7 o'clock British Standard Time. Be there or be square if you're a fan of NSOR, Wrestling Appreciation Society, any other company. Phantom Phoenix, I'm looking forward to speaking with you. Sammy, congratulations on recovering. Welcome back to the ring on April the 1st. Very, very happy and honored to have had you for your first words here with anybody else. I look forward to seeing you in the future. Certainly, you are a Sammy, so I will certainly say maybe you will give a Sammy Hagar, probably the most famous Sammy, a run for their money when it comes to what you're going to do for your fame in the world of professional wrestling as a referee and who knows what else. But thank you, my friend. Welcome back, and look forward to seeing you April the 1st in the ring for Nonstop Action Wrestling Zenith. All right, and we were joined here also at the end by James Barris, the owner of Cutlery Championship Wrestling, was with us on Tuesday's show. Thank you, Mr. Barris. We're about to sign off, but we'll have more wrestling coverage later this week. And if you have any questions, definitely message us here. But if you are on sportnarium.com/player, you're going to go back to your regularly scheduled program. If you're on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, I'll be back 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time here in America tomorrow with Corey Jakes, the head coach of the Five Town Sound women's basketball team. Tuesday night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time with Jason Gordieso, assistant coach of the Malloy College men's basketball team, alongside the Brute Force Brad Weiss and myself. And then Friday night, 7 p.m., Phantom Phoenix, before he goes into the ring next month for those NSOR tag team titles at Deadline at the Huddersfield Sports Center with his tag team partner, Owen Carter, against Remus Kane and Callum Jakester. So thank everybody here for tuning in on the Sportswire Radio, is the number one global radio station. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce. Thank you, Sammy Rice. Good night, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. On Sportswire Radio, the number one global radio station. Good night, everyone.